All right, so to start off today's class, I'm going to hand out some introductory information. It tells you the name of the textbook, some important links on the VCAR website, the timing and weighting of your SACs next year, and some advice on how to have a good year and a good time at the end. Believe it or not, in less than 12 months from now, you will be finished with your time at school. You'll move on to the next stage of your life. All right, so let's work through this handout very, very briefly. I know you know how to read, so I'll just go over the most important points. Okay, the first thing I want you to do, if you've got a device, there are 3 links on the VCAR website. You need to bookmark those in your browser. The shortcut is Control-D. Yep, go get it. Yes.
Isn't that smart? Okay, you guys came down, so you can't really play it.
All right, Tim, that's enough. Tim, that's enough. Okay, so you need those 3 links bookmarked. The next thing I want to draw your attention to is the SACs. So if you've done maths last year, you're probably used to having a test every 2 or 3 weeks after every topic. In year 12, it's a bit different. The first assessment we will have is at the end of term 1. It will cover probably about 5 chapters. It's also the biggest SAC. It's worth 40% of your SAC mark. It's unfortunate that VCAR has set it up this way, but basically, your first SAC experience on this subject will be your biggest one. All the more reason to work hard this week, next week, and over the summer school holidays. Notice also that the SAC goes for 5 periods. So you've done 1 period tests, you've done a 2-period exam. This SAC will go over 5 periods, and then the other ones will go for 3 periods. So they're big tasks, and they're going to be demanding. All up, your SACs will count 40% of your study score. So this means that in addition to working hard to study for your exam, if you want to get a good study score and you want to maximize your ATAR, what you need to do is work hard through the year and get good marks on your SACs. Okay? So really, it's a marathon next year rather than a 100-meter sprint at the end. And then your exams are worth 60%. So you'll have 2 exams. By the way, I think I've written 34% for SACs. Can you change that to 40, please, on your sheet? Yeah, because they've recently updated the study design. So the SACs are 40% of the study score. Exams are 30% each, score 60%. Oh, so just please change that. All right, next thing I want to let you know, it's never too early to start looking at old exam questions. I would encourage you, before we come back next year, to look at an old exam paper and just see the kind of questions you're going to be asked. We might go through one next week. You'll be able to do some of the exam already, even if you didn't do Year 11 General. Some of it you'll be able to pick up very quickly. One thing to remember is that next year it's going to be called General Maths, but before that it was called Further Maths. So if you're looking for old VCE exams, they will be under the Further Maths page on the VCAR website. I've described some changes to the study design. So if you're looking at all exam questions, just take note of that. Okay? Study design is changing again next year. So we are entering a new study design for the first time, but it's very similar to last year's course. Okay? And I've summarized the changes. So they've added some new material and they've removed some material as well. Everything else is pretty much the same. Okay? That's for your info. All right, let's turn the page. Expectations. So if you had me for year 11 last year, well, this year, I should say, then you know how much work is required for a VC subject. Somewhere between 2.5 to 3 hours a week of private study at home. Now, that depends on what you're trying to get out of VC. So if you're planning to go to university and you need to be competitive with your ATAR score, then I would say you should be doing at least 3 hours a week on a VC subject. If you don't put in that much work, you'll probably find you can't meet the demands of the subjects. Now, if you're doing 5 subjects, that adds up to about 15 hours a week. That's a lot of time. And I imagine that's a big jump from what most of you did this year. Right? So I can't just say to you, you need to do 15 hours of homework a week. You need to decide what's important to you and why you want to work hard on your VC. As I've talked with many of you, one thing that I've discovered is that a lot of you don't know what you want to do after you leave school. And until you have a good idea, it'll be very hard to motivate yourself to do 10, 15 hours of homework a week. But what you'll notice, if you've seen some of your spouse who worked very hard this year, they were studying here, they all had an idea what they wanted to do. They had a goal in mind. They felt that every time they sat down at night, that they were working towards something beyond school. That's what you all need. Okay? If you have an idea of what you want to do after you leave school, you'll probably find it much easier to get out of bed, come to school, and do the work. So if you don't know what you want to do, that's your first priority, I would say. Before you come back next year, have an idea, maybe 3 ideas that you could list down what you would do after you leave school. Now, not everyone will do 3 hours a week, but I would say as a VC teacher, as someone who did school 10 years ago, if you want to meet the demand of the subject, you've got to put in that time. That might mean maybe some sacrifices. Maybe something's got to go. Maybe less shifts at work, maybe less time just dozing off. On Teams, so you should all have access to a Teams page. I have put in this file. It's a sample study plan. So I'll show it to you on Teams. So who's found the Teams page? Hands up. Excellent. So have you seen this document already? The study plan. All right. So I'll show you where it is. So if you go to class materials, advice for studying, I'll put some articles in there throughout the year. It's the sample study plan. So I've actually sat down with some students in my class, helping them to put together a study plan for the first time. If you want me to sit down with you and put one together with you, I'm happy to do that. This is what mine would have looked like when I was in VC. So I'll do about 2 hours at night, Monday to Thursday, take Friday off, and then a couple of hours in the morning on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And then you get 15 hours a week there. It's a lot. I would say that most of my classmates didn't do that much. But again, it comes back to what you want to get out of VCE, what pathways you want open to you, and whether you're willing to aim high and challenge yourself. So this is there for you, and there's a blank one as well if you want to fill it in. But if you want to do it with me, just let me know. Okay, so that's the first expectation. So I'm just going to put this very clearly on the table now. About 3 hours a week. If you don't put in that effort, you'll understand why you find the SATs very difficult when you sit them next year. Okay? Alright, second expectation. You must come to class prepared. So that means you have charged devices or you have chargers with you. So I don't want you to come to me at the beginning of a class saying, Mr. Chu, my CAS calculator is flat. Or I don't have a charger for my laptop. My response is going to be, what are you going to do about it? If you know that you need a CAS calculator period 5, you should organize that before you arrive in class. Okay? You are adults now. I see you as adults. You may not be 18 yet. Not everyone in the school may see you as an adult, but in my opinion, you are adults. You are responsible for your own learning. You are responsible for what you want to get out of this class. And so, don't show up without a calculator. Don't show up without a computer. Don't show up without a charger. It's just... Imagine if I turned up without a laptop and said, oh, my laptop's flat, can't teach today, sorry. What would you think of that? Throw a party? Class is cancelled? No, right? You think this teacher is stupid and yeah. Okay? So I would expect you, as adults, to be prepared as well. Alright, and the third expectation, if you know that you're going to be away, you should contact me beforehand. So say, oh, you've got a holiday coming up. Shouldn't be taking a holiday in year 12, you've got too much to do. But if for whatever reason you're going to be away, let me know in advance and I can tell you what work to catch up on. If you are sick, send me a message on Teams and I'll tell you what you need to catch up on. I had students who had to be away during a SAC. You need to let me know beforehand and fill out a form. You can't just wag school for a week, disappear, come back and say, I'm ready to sit the SAC now, because we won't let you do it. Okay, so if you're going to be away, let us know in advance, and you need permission to do that if you are missing a SAC. Okay. Alright, suggested pathways. That's the next section on the handout. So what I've tried to capture here is 3 different ways you can complete the subject in order of sort of proactive commitment. So on the far left is the sort of the easiest option. And so let me describe what this looks like. You complete all the work that I set over the summer holidays. When I cover something in class, you turn up. You listen and then you complete the homework at home. And then you do some practice exams at the end of the year. So I expect everyone to do that. Now have a look at the second pathway. I've said pre-read textbook. Do you know what pre-reading means? It's more than that. What does the pre suggest? Beforehand. Are you familiar with this idea of learning the material or starting to look at the material before you come to class? So it's a big year next year. If you want to stay up to date, my advice is to stay slightly ahead. If you stay slightly ahead and you fall behind, then you'll be up to date, which is good. So you'll see down the bottom. Yep. So you'll see down the bottom, I have suggested that students who come from maths methods, you should pre-read, because the content is within your grasp. Alright, and now have a look at pathway number 3. I've suggested that you start looking at exam questions over the summer school holidays. Look at old exam papers, try them, look at the assessment reports, start learning the course now. You don't have to wait until October next year to start looking at exam questions. There's no reason why you couldn't just learn the whole course now. You'll have to learn it eventually anyway, but why not put in some effort now and lay a good foundation for the rest of the year? So if you are accelerating, I expect you to work on pathway number 3. But I recommend all of you work on pathway 2 if possible. Pre-reading is going to be a big shift from the way many of you have studied. But if you want to stay up to date, I suggest you stay slightly ahead, because there's going to be all kinds of pressures on you next year. And yeah, if you're only up to date, it's a big ask, and then you fall behind, then it's a big psychological pressure on you until you catch up again. That might not be until the end of the term. Okay, and one final thing, if you're looking at exam questions, please leave papers from 2016 onwards alone. We're going to save those for the end of the year. Okay? All right, turn the page, bound reference. This is an important part because you sit 2 exams at the end of the year, and you are allowed to take in one and only one bound reference. VCART has very strict rules on the bound reference. So if your bound reference doesn't meet the rules, they will take it away from you during your exam. And you're already stressed when you're sitting the exam. You don't want that to happen on the day. So I've put a link to all the rules. So I suggest you have a look at that page. We had an incident this year where someone had tabs coming out of their page, and the invigilator made them snip the tabs off because it was bigger than an A4 piece of paper. I thought it was a bit silly, but you can't really argue with them. So, with the bound reference, most of you will have a book that you've written in since year 7, is that right? Okay. Now, I expect some of you will run a room next year. So, what I'm suggesting that you do is you write your notes on loose leaf paper. So, maybe something like this. Write your notes on loose leaf paper throughout the year. When you do your sets, I will let you have everything open. Your textbook open, your workbook open, your loose leaf paper open. And then, at the end of the year, you'll take all your notes and you'll bind them with the coil or spiral binding of the office. Okay? That way, you can add or move or remove pages, put them in a different order as it suits you. Because you might write notes on statistics now, then write notes on the next topic, and then when you get to the end of the year, you want to write more statistics notes, and then they're not together anymore. They're all separate. So that's my recommendation. Do your notes on loose leaf paper, and then we'll get spiral binding at the end of the year at the front office. So do you all have loose leaf paper? So if you don't have loose leaf paper, make sure you get some over the holidays. If you want to do something else, that's fine. Please let me know that you're doing that so that I can check that your bound reference meets the rules. I don't recommend you type your bound reference. I did have someone do that this year, but typing mathematics is very time consuming, and I think your time is better used doing something else. Okay, I know I've been talking for a while. I'm just going to pause here and ask if there are any questions. So far we've talked about SACs, the bound reference, expectations. Anything?
The links. We'll be able to put them in Teams. So
This file is on Teams. Yeah. It's in Head Start. Head Start folder. Okay. All right, next thing. So this is the bottom of the 3rd page. Outcomes. There are 3 outcomes in VC Maths. The study design is a bit verbose, so I've tried to summarize it for you in the bottom paragraph. Outcome 1 is about what I like to call routine questions or normal questions. Questions that you've seen before. Questions that will look familiar if you study the material, and you'll know what to do straight away. Okay? So outcome 1 is the nice, sort of easy outcome. Okay? Outcome 2 is about problem solving in non-routine contexts. So sometimes you might get a weird question, figure out what's going on, or your teacher asks you to do something where you haven't been taught how to do it before. You're expected to fit the pieces together and figure it out yourself. That's outcome 2. So outcome 2 is where champions are crowned in a math subject. That's where you're not just copying what the textbook does, you're actually figuring out something for yourself. You're actually thinking and problem solving. Half the marks on the stats come from outcome 2 next year. So just be aware of that. I expect you to know how to do questions. I also expect you to be able to figure things out on your own as well. So that might mean you see questions where you know everything that you need to do, but you need to put the pieces together yourself. Outcome 3 is about technology. The only technology that we're really going to use in the SATs is the CAS calculator. I still remember my year 12 methods teacher saying to the class, having good CAS calculator skills could be the difference between getting into the university course of your choice and not getting into that course. I think he has a good point. And on that note, I would just say it's a priority to master the CAS calculator because your exam is long, and if you're slow with the calculator, it will affect your performance. So every time I give you a demo on how to use the CAS calculator, you should listen very, very carefully and note what's in the textbook as well. So in this, I have said a few things as well. Yes, okay, so I'll say a bit more about this when we come up to the SACs next year. The pass mark for a SAC will be 40% next year. So if you get below 40%, you will need to do a supplementary assessment, and you will need to show completed textbook questions as well. So until you show me you've done your textbook work and you've completed a supplementary assessment, you won't get an S for that topic. Now, I had 5 students in that category in my year 12 class this year. And I want to say that it is a nightmare trying to get an S at the end of the year. Because what happens is, let's just say you fail the SAC at the end of term 1. And you get your SAC back term 2, because it takes time for me to mark it. What's going to happen is, I can't really get you to do the stats work in term 2, because we've moved on to a new topic. There'd be no point in you doing the previous topic, and then trying to do the new topic as well. So what will happen is, all your supplementary work will be done at the end of the year, so you don't fall behind the class. But at the end of the year, you're doing all your last stats, you're studying for your exams. So I say this knowing that it will probably happen anyway, but please try to avoid a situation where you don't pass the SAC. And it'll be very obvious that you haven't done the work when I mark your SAC. I guess the key message I'm trying to get across is, you might think you're delaying work by not passing the SAC the first time, and it'll be easier for me at the end of the year, but actually it's just going to make life much, much harder for you. So pass it the first time. Okay? We will give you every opportunity to pass, but you don't want more stress at the end of the year. If you don't pass an outcome, so I will require you to have 40% on each outcome on the SAC as well. So every question will have marks for outcome 1, outcome 2, and outcome 3. And if you don't get 40% on an outcome, you won't reset the SAC, but you'll have to show me the completed textbook work. And the most important sentence is here. I'll upload this to Teams. If you bomb a SAC, by bomb I mean like you don't do as well as you want, I can't change the SAC mark. So you know how this year you've reset SACs in 1-2 subjects, maybe like business or maths? You got to reset a test. When you do a SAC, your mark doesn't change after you resit it. So if you get 20% on your first attempt, and you do your supplementary, you will still get 20%. That'll be the mark you report to VCA. So you want to make sure, if you're trying to get into university, that you do as well as you can on all of your SACs. If you underperform on a SAC, it will affect your study score and grade as well. And so every SAC you do next year is important. Is this clear? You cannot change your SAC mark once you've done it after the first attempt. Okay? All right, on the back, I've given you some tips. I don't want to read them out now because I'm just sensing that I've been talking for a very, very long time. All right. I'm going to hand out two things now. Take one pass on. Your textbook is due to arrive, well, your textbook is supposed to be published mid-December. So it's not ready yet, but the teacher's got a preview copy, so I printed out the first chapter for you. Take one pass on. Are there any stairs? Okay, could I get everyone to have the Head Start program page in front of them? So just the one sheet, Head Start program. I can get it open as well. All right. So the plan is this Head Start will do 1A to 1E in class. I will teach the content. You will have some time to work on questions, and then you will need to do 1F and 1G for holiday homework. There is no new content that you didn't learn in Year 9 and Year 10 maths. If you did Year 11 general maths, there is no new content for what we did last year. So this whole chapter should be revision of stuff that you already know. There's no need to panic, but there is quite a bit of work to do. You will find general maths very difficult if you don't know what the mean, median, mode is. You can't interpret a frequency table or bar chart. We're about to go over all of that. Okay? And I've also asked you to pre-read 1H, which is something that I think no one has done before, the normal distribution. Why am I asking you to pre-read it? Because it's actually one of the more difficult parts of the course, but it kind of just sits on its own. So I want to just get it done on the first day next year, and then we'll move on to everything else, which is more related to what we're doing this week. Now, in order to make sure that you get your holiday homework done, I will check it on the first day, and you will also do a quiz covering that content. I also plan to run a quiz every 1 or 2 weeks, maybe 10 to 20 minutes long, and that's really just to keep you accountable. So I will know whether you're keeping up with the work, and you will know whether you understand the material or not. Okay, anything else I want to say here? Some people have suggested that I say to you not to do the holiday homework at the start because you might forget it when you come back. But I'm going to leave that up to you. I'd rather that you actually get it done. Now, I was a VC student too, so I also had times where I may or may not have started the holiday homework the day before it was due. You won't be able to do that here. I reckon there's about 10 to 15 hours of work in that booklet. Okay? We're going to get some done this week. But don't leave it till the day before it's due because you won't get it done. Okay? famous last word. Okay.
When it comes to doing these questions,
Yes?
he wants to do every single question.
Tim has asked a very good question. Do we have to do every question? I've got some bad news for you. When Mrs. Kidd and I taught general or further this year, we did not give a work program. We assigned every question. Now, I'm a reasonable person, so I will look over the questions, and if I think the exercise is too long, I will tell you which ones not to do. Okay? But having looked through chapter 1, I think it is all reasonable. Okay, I'm about to start teaching some content now. We'll get started on general maths. Yes. So, before I do that, do you have any questions?
No. I actually have a question.
Yes, Lee.
In other subjects,
Yes.
I know that at the end of the year when you do your exam, if you do really well, sometimes your SAT marks can get bumped. Is that the same here, or is that just
What do you mean by bumped?
like how is it? What is it? Tell? No? Okay. It's like
It also depends on class averages, but if everyone like does well passes.
Are you talking about statistical moderation of SAT scores?
yeah.
Okay. Alright, so has anyone explained to you how SAT scores work? Okay, so let me talk about it briefly. So, as you know, 40% of your SAC, 40% of your study score will come from your SACs next year. SAC just means an assessment task that you do at school. Okay? So, every school sets their own SAC. So, Yale High School will set their own general maths SAC. Alexandra will set their own SAC. So let's say Yale has an average of 55 and Alex has an average of 50, and the students do similar on the exam. We would conclude that Alex's SACs were harder, right? So for that reason, VCAL would scale up the marks. Okay? So the scaling takes into account two factors: your gap, the general achievement test, and your exam score. So it's hard for me to answer your question because in some ways I think you don't need to worry about it, because VCAL has set it up so that, like, the reason why scaling happens is so that different schools are comparable, so that one school is not disadvantaged because their SAT is super hard, and then another school was advantaged because their SAT was really easy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when I write SATs, sorry to say this, I write hard SATs. And I have to because I've got 4 method students in this class. So, yeah. Okay? Alright. Has my class told you what the average was on the Year 11 General Math exam? Oh no, I haven't told you yet. I will tell you at the end. Alright, I'll tell you now. I can't do that to you. The average was 30% on the exam.
Before or after spending?
Before. It was scaled up by 28%. Okay?
So it's what, 58?
That's the average. Okay?
Have the exams been marked?
You're getting them.
Are we getting it back?
You're going to get them back at the end of the double. Alright, tell you what. Because you've been sitting down for a long time, how about I give out your exams now? We'll take a 5-minute break, and then period 6 we'll do some content. If you weren't here last year, I'll give you the exams. What do you think? Give it an exam to do?
Do it.
Hey, I just told Lou
What's that? Oh yeah, no, party snack. No, the party friends, the people that were here. No. Fault line. Where is the fault line? I actually already the writing is so professional. Oh, what, you get an egg sometime? This is going to be bad. Do I want to open it? Yeah, I get one. I am the average. I love the average. Your language.
Alright, solutions are coming around.
Not the low. What did you get? The average. Did you get exactly the average?
That's my name.
Charlie, what did you get?
Oh, never mind.
Whoa, it's like someone forgets. Did you just say you don't get any responses? Yeah, that I did. So we're gonna keep the.
Yep. You can keep everything.
Can I say jazz is on this issue? They know this on the table. We're not gonna lie to we're not in person and stuff.
Well, I guess you got more holding on.
Maybe we do. As long as you're not too mad
Is
about
this
it.
your last day?
Well, I'm going.
You're gonna miss us. Good, great. Because I'm gonna miss you too.
So we know
No. Next week. Next week.
yeah, I'm gonna do.
Oh no.
Oh.
What's the highest score in the class?
It's on the back page of the solutions.
Oh my god, I need to Oh crap.
Does it say who's got the highest score?
No, that is confidential.
You just gotta look around. There's one plus five looking for that. What was your name? Oh, Mr. Sorry, I'm so sorry. But this one's too hard. Yeah, no.
What is your name? Too hard?
I can't spell. So only general. There's too many letters. Good. Oh, you should add an S to the end of your name. No, whenever someone's at my house, they're clients. No, they're two. Should I get out of my BC jumper? You should. Kai's house.
So that survey I handed out, it looks like you're all filling it in now. Okay, that's fine. So how about I give? Well, all right. So I'll give you 2 minutes to fill that out. If you don't finish filling it in, that's fine. I would rather that you fill it in properly. So like, give thought to your answers rather than just a quick scribble. And then, oh, it's done, I can get rid of it now. No, like, answer it properly. You don't have to hand it in today. Just hand it in before you leave school. So I guess if you're ditching today, after today, then you have to hand it in.
I should just start down. Why make us feel bad about it?
Yeah. Mission accomplished.
I'll send you messages every day to tell me how my day was going.
Cool. Harry, I will have seen your messages and I will not reply.
Just give a thumbs up.
Just say sure, bud.
Every time it's a thumbs up.
Yeah. Well, okay.
All right, so I'll give you one more minute on that, and then we will dive right in, but not the deep end today.
You're the type of person to write just opens that I'm better than the
Chess counted as hobby and interest. So that last question, right? I'm interested in you as a person. What is your life like outside of school? What do you do?
Did you win your test rank?
We didn't finish.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I can moderate that. Just alcohol. Your hobbies are alcohol. No, right alcohol.
Let's not write that.
No, purple space for my hobby. My hobby is dangerous. I think it's right. I can too. No, because it's. Do you want these exams back?
You can keep the exams. You can keep the solutions.
I think anyone can leave out an alcoholic.
At the end of the lesson, if you finish.
No little child, like a 6-year-old child. One of the ones that still makes the.
Just how you can get the exam.
Yes, you keep your exam. All right, year 12s. I'm going to call you year 12s because you are year 12s now. We are going to start. They're doing a year 12 subject. I consider them year 12s. All right, so because I'm recommending that you write your bound reference notes on a loose leaf paper, it now doesn't matter where you write your notes. You could choose to write in your black book that you kept in year 7. You could choose to write in your workbook, wherever suits you. Do you need something to write on? If you're done with this, I'll take it as well.
None of us want to be here, Brian. I said you're third. Sure. Me slap. In that order. Exactly right.
All right, year 12s, let's get going. Time is now ticking. The sooner we finish the course, the sooner you get to revise for your exams. So let's make every moment count in these classes. It's soon. It's less than 12 months away. Before you know it, you'll be leaving those gates for the last time. Like,
Oh, then we can do a curse. Do you want to do a curse code? I want to do a curse.
can everyone see that on the board?
Yes,
All right.
it is there.
All right. So this is a change from when I was a student. I didn't do any stats when I was at school. Now it's in year 7. So you've probably seen something like this. All types of data or variables can be described as either categorical or numerical. And then with each of those two categories, pardon the pun, there are 2 further classifications that we can make. Can anyone tell me what they are under the categorical umbrella?
Ordinal and continuous. Or is that the categorical?
Continuous does not belong underneath categorical.
No, well, the continuous is under numerical.
Mm.
Wait, so there's. I don't know.
Would you like to grab a remote from a nearby room?
Nominal, is that one of them? Under numerical? Okay.
No.
I said nominal. I said right. So you go discrete.
Excellent. Old notes come to the rescue.
It's not old. I literally did it before the exam, so I didn't realize it was not on the exam.
Yeah, still old notes. Okay. So, as early as this sounds in your school career, this is something that you need to know. You could be asked on the exam, what type of variable is this? Actually, they give you 2 because every multiple choice question has 5 options. And there's only 4 there, so they'll actually ask you to classify 2 within the one question to give you 5 options. So I'm guessing you have some vague idea what these are. You might need a reminder. So categorical. If I told you that, let's see, I go to KFC and I can get an ultimate box, a zinger box. All right. Is this nominal or ordinal? So we need a definition, don't we, right? We need to understand what do these words mean. So as a starting point, nominal versus ordinal. Now, a lot of you said ordinal. Why did you say ordinal?
Because it's an order.
What's the ordering, though?
That's what you're about to tell us, isn't it?
Yeah, so you're right. Ordinal, when data is ordinal, there is a natural ordering to the categories. Sorry if you don't like KFC, but couldn't resist.
If they don't like KFC, they should not be. Who doesn't like KFC?
All right, so ordinal data is easy. Look for ORD. Ordinal. I don't know if it was on purpose, but it certainly helps me to remember it. And if there's no ordering, then it's nominal. Okay. Now, let's say I had a survey question that asks the following question. Mr. Chu's tests are too hard. And there were a bunch of responses. Strongly disagree. Slightly disagree. See where this is going?
Yeah.
Neutral. Slightly agree. Yes. I know. That's why I bought it. Okay, so you see those responses to the survey? There's a natural ordering there, right? From disagree to agree, you can go either way. So if I had a variable that was interested in those responses to the survey, that would be ordinal because there is an order to those categories. Okay? Ordinal, there is an order. Nominal, there is no order. So I'll just say this one is nominal. This one is ordinal. Okay. Oh, I'm going to run out of room. All right. Discrete and continuous. What's the difference? This is actually quite a deep question that I can't do justice to in a high school course. The way I'll explain this to you is discrete data is either countable or can only take on specific values. And continuous, this thing is glitching out on me. Continuous, not countable. So you can't count it 1, 2, 3, 4. Can take on any value. And often, if you measure something, it's a continuous variable. So if you measure height, that's continuous. If you measure weight, that's continuous. Those of you who are doing a science subject, you've seen other units like temperature, speed, velocity, acceleration, mass. Those are all measured. Those are all continuous variables. Just give me a moment while I try to add a page here. Let's see if this works. I'm still experimenting with this new technology. Nope, not that. Append page. What's up, Cooper? Yes, you can. Is that enough? Yeah. This will go on Teams. This is also being recorded as well. So, don't worry if you don't catch everything. It'll come back, okay? All right, so let's do a quick example with discrete and continuous. Let's say we're at the ASC swimming carnival, and I measure the time for the 50-meter breaststroke. Yeah. I'm making these up as I go, so yeah. So discrete or continuous?
Discrete. Oh no, but it's just time, which is continuous.
Sometimes I might just stay silent and make you doubt yourself.
Oh, don't do that to me.
You're doing it right now.
I know. I'm enjoying it.
You drunk? No. Oh, sure, it's not.
So, when you have a stopwatch, it'll say something like, 20.04 seconds. So it might look like, it can only take on specific values. But it's possible to take 24.041 seconds, or 24.04112171 seconds. It's just that your stopwatch can't measure it that accurately. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you are taking a measurement of a continuous variable here. So for that reason, this keyword measure is there to help you. This is continuous. So even though your stopwatch only gives you specific values, you don't actually know the true value. The measurement is just an approximation to the true value. All right. What if let's say I count the number. You're catching on. I can't think of something good to count. Can you think of a good example?
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12.
Yeah, but what am I counting?
8 numbers.
People.
Just do. Yeah.
Harrison. How is that, right?
All right. Number of people at this school. How many people are there at this school? Something like 300, yeah?
357.
What?
I don't know that.
Okay, you just threw out a random number. Now, when I did this with my Year 8 class, I asked them, can you have 0.19 of a person? And they said yes.
Yeah.
How?
You average it.
Yeah, you just take the arm.
But they're still a person.
No.
Are you saying if I don't have an arm, I'm less of a person? Can't help you. All right. So, according to my definition, if you are missing a limb, you are still a whole one person. And for that reason, it's countable. You can only take on specific whole number values. So that will be a discrete variable. All right, we'll just do a couple more. Let's say we measure rainfall every day this week. Rainfall, discrete or continuous?
Continuous.
Why?
Because you measure it. Because it can be anything.
That's right.
It's not going to be like one. Like you can have 0.9 of it.
That's right. You could have 0.19 millimeters, 0.191 millimeters. Any number is possible. We just round it off when we measure. And let's do one more. Something interesting. All right, and last one. How many trucks were there at the Alex Truck Festival a few months ago?
633.
All right, is that discrete or continuous? Okay. I guess half a truck is a bit possible, but let's just keep let's keep it simple. Whole trucks, okay? All right, is that all right? Make sense?
If we count trucks that have massive trailers on top, there's 2 trucks that
Just the truck and a trailer.
because then
I think the truck is just the thing that tows a trailer, so a trailer would be like another separate truck. And that's it.
So you're saying if a truck detaches a trailer, it's no longer a truck?
No, because then it's still a truck. It's still built to come with a trailer.
You
So
good?
then is a car a truck?
Why?
It's only a trailer?
Because trucks are largely cars.
She's got a point.
Yeah, but what if it's
Cars mainly carry people, but can tow trailers.
But so
Trucks main-
trucks.
No, trucks.
Trucks mainly carry trailers, but they also carry people.
Carry
What's the
people.
difference?
There is difference there. They both mainly do different things.
But what if you only have an A3 so it's not built for carrying people?
Trucks are specifically designed to carry trailers.
So are some cars.
Designed to carry.
okay, trucks are specifically
Well, then you
designed to
call
carry
a car
heavy
designed to
weights.
carry a trailer a truck.
Or you could call it a U because
Yeah, you just call it a U because it has a trailer. Has a trailer as a utility.
This is the sort of stuff that kids go.
All right, year 12s, let's bring it back. We've just covered 1A. Would you like a break?
Yes. I agree.
No, you don't get a break on the... So we still need to cover 1B before we're done. So do you want to cover it now?
Yes.
All right, hands up if you want to cover 1B now. Majority wins. We are covering 1B. Sorry, everyone else. Okay, one thing I forgot to say is, you might, sometimes it's good to step back and say, why are we doing this? Why are we learning this?
that's true.
Why do we bother making this distinction between numerical and continuous data? Here's the reason. Depending on the kind of data that you have, that will tell you what kind of graph or what kind of statistics you should choose. So term 1 is all about statistics. It's all about data analysis. So we'll start off with data which just has one variable, and later we'll have data with 2 variables. The climax, if you like, of general maths is where you have 2 numerical variables, and we'll spend a long time on that next year. So if you've met things like box plots, frequency tables, scatter plots, dot plots, that all depends on whether you have numerical or discrete data. So hopefully that's just helpful in giving you the bigger picture. The type of data tells you which chart you should choose. So to start with, we're going to look at categorical data. Now, the textbook examples are a bit boring, but let's do one. Alright, so I'm going to do question 3. So I'm actually knocking off some of your homework for you, so you can thank me later. Alright, so this is question 3. So there are 20 cards, and I'm going to say some time, I'm going to count it for you. Card type and frequency. So there are 3 types of cards in this data set. So in the question, they've actually given you the raw data. I don't think counting is a good use of your time, but anyway.
Sorry.
Okay, so if you have the question in front of you, they gave you 20 raw pieces of data, the capital letters S, M, and L. So I'll put that here as well. Have a look at question 3 in exercise 1B on page 11. Which is easier to look at? The raw data in the question or this table that I've got up on the board here? What's easier about the table?
It's all laid out.
Okay.
Everything's there just for you.
It's neat.
Just for you.
Can you tell me which category is the most popular or the most dominant?
Medium.
How do you know that?
Because it's not a number.
It's got the highest frequency. Can you tell that easily from looking at the data?
No.
Yeah. So that's the advantage of a frequency table. You can more easily see trends or patterns from the data. That's Miss Little.
Could I please borrow 10 students?
Yep. Okay, that's fine. All right. So let's add another layer to this. There's 2 layers I want to add. One is I want to add a percentage. I actually found, working with my Year 12 class this year, a lot of students couldn't convert numbers to percentages. So, oh, great. We'll go over it now.
You're welcome.
And the other thing, I actually forgot what I was going to do.
Sorry.
Anyway.
What? Hey.
All right. When was the first time you saw a bar chart at school? Do you remember?
Year 5.
All right. So if I do this without explaining it, are you okay with that? All right. Okay. This is called a bar chart. You use a bar chart for categorical data. Please do not create a bar chart for numerical data.
I'm going to do that.
I will be very, very cross with you. Okay. So there's the raw data, there's the frequency table, and there's the bar chart. They all have the same information. What might be an advantage of using a bar chart instead of the frequency table?
It's even easier still to see what one's figuring out.
Great. So the bar chart has the same information, but visually it's easier to see what's going on. Okay. So, yes. There were 2 things I wanted to do. One was to calculate percentages, and the other one was I wanted to define the mode. Who remembers what the mode is?
Most common.
Great. So you've already answered this question for me. The most common category was medium. So in this data set, that's the medium size. You will get percentages in a moment. All right, so let's do the percentages now, and then that'll be it. We'll be done for today. Yeah. I know. You'll be working.
You said we're done. That means we're done.
Okay. You can sit there and watch your VCE just fade away. Okay, so final order of business for today. I want to convert the frequencies in this frequency table to percentages. What should I do?
You should.
Times and
Add them all together, divide them by how many there is, and then times.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
So I should have left room. So your frequency table at the bottom will have a total row. So add that to your table. The total frequency count, 8 plus 9 plus 3 is 20. Now, I think most of you know that 1 out of 20 is 5%. But in case you didn't know that, let me do it for you down here. What is 8 out of 20 as a percentage? Yes, it is 40%, but how do we get it? Great. Sorry, I need to add another page. Just give me a moment. There's a hotkey, I haven't learned it yet. So. Okay, 8 out of 20 as a percentage. So if you have two, so this is really a fraction, 8 divided by 20, right? Every fraction and every decimal has a representation as a percentage. So what should I do? I should multiply the fraction by 100 and add the percentage sign. Okay, 800 over 20%. You can do that on a calculator, that's 40. All right, so the reason why you need to know this is because if I give you an ugly number, if I say what is 5 out of 37 as a percentage, ain't nobody going to do that one in their head. But you can still put 5 out of 37, multiply it by 100, and then by the power of a calculator or technology, thank you. And I'm guessing you rounded that to one decimal place? Yeah. Okay. Percentages are going to be appearing quite frequently in this course. So at various points, I'm going to go over percentages because even though we did it in year 11, I found a lot of my students in my year 12 class this year had problems with them. So we'll go over them again. That is all the content for this double period. Your homework is 1A and 1B. If you do that before our next class, you will be up to date. So, any questions before I release you to get some work done? You're the hands. No questions? All right, get started, guys.